Okay, so new microphone and just a bunch of new stuff really that I've been going through with the effects. So yeah, let's get started. Let's pop up in Gaea. And hopefully this should sound better too, just clearer in general because new mic and everything. So let's see, what was I working with last? I believe it was Westfall and not the splat map bit. So I've done a few previous streams. You might have found them, might have not. I think I deleted a couple. It's just this exact same one, how to pick the data masks, but of course my mic was just all over the place. So hopefully this is a lot better and could be heard clearly, and hopefully this is the last take I have to do. So I think this is the fourth, if not the fifth time I've tried to do this tutorial. So let's see, got all this. Right, let me just delete all these graphs because I'll have to explain what's going on here. These are... Okay, actually we can keep these, but I'll get rid of that for sure. So what I've got going on here so far is the terrain that we've worked on, and you see these connections going down. That's just for later in the tutorial. Right now though, it'll just look like this without the whole lines going all the way down. We've got our terrain, we've done all of the erosion, all the different effects. We've then done the aperture, the snow, and the blur to soften it. So the end result will be looking like this, more or less, because you'll be doing your own project and it will look a bit different, but generally you're gonna have this is your finished terrain, but then for your final result, where you've done the aperture, the snowfall, and the blur, it's gonna look like that, a lot softer and just with smoother transitions between all the details. I went over why, but just to reiterate, when you've done all your stuff in Gaea, you're seeing the 32-bit preview. Whereas in video games, all the game engines, I think even current titles, I'd be surprised if they don't, still use 16-bit, which means all this juicy detail we see here is going to manifest as spikes and pits and jags, and it's going to look nothing like what we see in Gaea unless we blur it like that. And you also have the snowfall, so it's a bit different, but it's just being treated as another effect to blur the terrain, essentially. So we're not blanketing it in snow for the purpose of actually making snow. Think of it more as just grass or dirt, right? We're just going over the details, but we still have the overall character. Anyway, let's go. So what we are going to do now is we're going to figure out the splat maps. And that's kind of unintuitive at first because, for one, it's called splat map, right? And yeah, bump my mic. And that doesn't make too much sense. It's not an intuitive term. But we're going to create an image with 4 channels: your red, your green, your blue, and your transparency. And what that will do is each channel or color or transparency is going to correspond to a specific texture. And I like to do red for rock, blue for gravel, green for grass, and transparency for dirt. So I'll go over that now. What we're going to pick first though are all the data masks that we're going to use further on. And we have to know which ones are going to look fairly close to the final result, to the blurred terrain at the very end of the chain. Not the snowfall, not the aperture, not the erosion, not the very last one that the player will be walking on. If you think, oh, why don't I just use the erosion here as my reference and then use all these previous ones? That's because it's too divergent. So if you go further back and applying the masks to the erosion before your final one, don't. It's going to look weird. I tried that thinking, oh, I'd have more detail. It doesn't work. It just looks really daft and buggy. So make sure you have your final node as your underlay. You just right click here to see the pin as underlay and tell if something's pinned as underlay because it's going to have the wee purple dot there marked as underlay. So with that as our underlay, let's start looking at the different data mask outputs we have here. You can see these because they're not the main output with all of these effect nodes and primitives and combines. We've got things like wear, deposit, flow, the erosion nodes. For the snowfall, we have snow, hard, depth. For the sea, we have sea, depth, beach. And we're going to see if we can find ones that fit our final terrain. Let's start with the snowfall, because it's just before the blur. Now, right off the bat, what I recommend you do is you have a little node I call a sacrifice node. It doesn't do anything. And we're not going to add any resettings here. We're not going to add the re-effects here. We're going to straight up just then add the effects node. The reason for this is I found it can be buggy when you're baking or using portals or doing stuff across graphs, whatever. And you don't have a node just before it to act as a buffer. For some reason, if you were to bake just the effects and that becomes a portal, the whole thing is going to bug out. Don't know why, and is just being such a pain in my backside. So genuinely, have your mask output go into just a dummy node, and it has to not be a choke point or a route or any of the other utility nodes here. It needs to be a proper actual height map sort of node. And again, we're not changing anything. And then we actually do stuff in the effects. So at the moment, we don't need to do anything in the effects because it's very clear what's going on here. There's no very slight gray colors that we have to bring out and add contrast to just to see what we're looking at. It's fairly obvious. So I'm just going to keep these and move these up. I'm going to do the same again. Do another clamp. In fact, what we can do is just copy these, actually. Press F11 to shorten your nodes like this, and then press it again to open them again, well, make them bigger. You can also do it, I believe, by doing collapse. Yeah, that's the one. Let's route the depth to that. Be careful. The depth to that one. That's also a harsh mask as well, so we don't need to do anything. Let's see what the bottom one is. That's depth. And that seems to have bugged the clamp. Refresh. Weird. Okay. So depth doesn't seem to like being used, so skip that. If you look at the snowfall, there's a slight difference here between the snow mask and the hard mask. Let's have a look. If we zoom right in, and let's just bring that down. So let's see. So for the snow, the first one, there's more black than there is in the hard. There's also a bit of transparency going on just by the looks of it. Yeah, there is. So what I would do here is let's invert it to see if maybe if we swap it around, it could be useful for something. We'll do the same for the hard mask. There's a lot of experimentation with masks as well, because maybe like this wouldn't be good for rock, maybe grass or gravel or dirt, but this looks pretty good for rock or gravel. Like probably needs some tweaking, but still. By inverting it, we can get a mask that doesn't look like we could use it, or suddenly actually we can use it. Let's have a little look as well. Okay, so yeah, the snow mask has some grays as well, and more white, whereas the hard is very, well, stark. It's either black or it's white, whereas this is black, white, and gray. So my initial thought is we could use this one for rock, then we could use the hard for gravel, or actually it'd be the reverse. We use the hard for gravel, and I'm saying this wrong, the snow for gravel, and the hard for rock. Let's try doing a combine node. So we'll take the snow mask, because that's bigger, use that as our source. And we are going to do a subtract. We'll do 100%. And with that as our base, we're going to take the hard mask and subtract that from the snow node. Let's see, what do we get? Yeah, to me, this looks like it would be good for gravel, some dirt, and maybe grass, but especially gravel here. Because if we look here, these are our mountain peaks. Right, let's look at the blur, right? Our mountains are over here, and the mask really captures them for the snow, but also the hard. Yeah, I like this. We could use this for sure. So what I want you to now do is, after we've done our combine, we're going to use a route node. And this is the thing as well. If we just have a straight mask to the route and we make a portal there, which allows us to use it in other graphs, like if we do another route or any other node, right? And we did a portal there. If it was just straight up a route, that can be funky as a utility node and also just being a direct output. By having this buffer with the clamps, it avoids bugs. If, why, how, when, no idea. It just does. Can't remember the specifics. Just remember that it really killed me and that was the solution for it. So what we're going to do is, we've made a portal. Let's rename it so it makes sense. So we'll do snowfall, hard sub, snow. Wait, snow sub hard. And let's make that lowercase. And you want to do this early on. Whenever you've made a portal, or just before you're about to make a portal, rename the node. Because if you don't, and we just have a bunch of routes like this, and we make them into portals, or just any other node, I like to use route for this. And then we have to try and connect another one to them with a portal. Look, we've got 3 routes. Or we did, because we named one. So we have 2 routes. Which one's which? There's no way for you to know, because they've got the same name and the same color, because they're the same node. But if you rename them, you're gonna have no issue finding it. So right off the bat, do that. Now let's see. Let's look at our where. So we've got the sacrificial clamp nodes, and then we have the actual effects node. So you'll, on first glance, just look at that and see if you've got really good eyes or like an OLED, you might see what's going on. I don't. I've got neither. So what we need to do, just to make sure, in case there is something there, we've got the effects node, and we're going to try these 4 different options. Do an ABS first. Now, what ABS will do is, if there is any value that isn't pure black, as in absolutely nothing there on that pixel, it will show as black. Otherwise, it'll be pure white. It'll be at the max value. And because everything's white, that means there's a lot of data here that's touching the entire terrain. So now that we know that, let's click off ABS and let's look at the level, see what we get. And that is the where. So what we're seeing is how, I believe it's rain they use for the erosion in Gaea 1, but we can at least see how the terrain's being affected in some way. Let's try turning on log. Now, it seems level and log's pretty good, but we're seeing a harsh absolute white here, which isn't great, because if we have values that aren't at either absolute 0 or absolute 255, or well, 16-bit, so 65, 3, 5, 3, whatever, are in the max or lowest possible values, we can do stuff with that. We can do things like clip, clamp, we can do gamma, we could blur it better. There's a lot of interesting stuff there. But with the stark difference, there isn't. There's only, you can't really add detail when there isn't any. So let's turn off level. So we get log. Now with log, it hasn't made it clip. We just have it very, very dull. Let's try doing an equalize. And that's super bright. That's even worse than level. So off the log. That's still way too harsh, because this whole area is white. It's pure. Let's get rid of that. So let's do the logarithmic, let's do a level. Because it's showing up like this, I like having these details here, but I'll just keep it as a log for here, and we'll do a route. Because we can add more processing later, but this early on, we just want to expose the masks as portals for use in our splat map channels here. And we can do different stuff later on. And considering this one looks like it has the most data available, we'll go with the logarithmic only. Let's do a route. Let's rename it erosion where, and we'll make a portal. And because we've renamed it before making a portal, we don't have the prompt to, do you want to rename this node? So that's easier. And you can also just collapse them, but what's the EU node? We'll keep it like this. Clamp and effects again. Again, it looks like nothing's there. Let's double check. ABS. Well, look, there is a lot of stuff there, which we wouldn't see if there was a clamp. And that's what the ABS nodes are really good for here. So we'll click that off, and let's try level. What do we get? Okay, the level's pretty good. I'm not seeing any absolute white. Maybe here, but I don't think so. So let's go back here, put off level, put on log. To do level and log. Let's see what's like without log. Okay, so level and log. It might have some absolute white, but it's bringing out a bunch of the other details, which I really like. So let's do another effects, and we'll just do equalizing that one, and we'll compare. Right. Yeah, the equalize is bringing out these small details, but we're getting too much absolute white here. That's not really good, whereas this is. So we still see the details, just they pop out more with the equalize. So we'll keep it as level and log for now. Let's position these again, keep them the same. Also, organizing early on is such a lifesaver and a time saver. So you don't want to have a bunch of your masks all over the place in a big spaghetti mess. You want it to all be organized, because if you're just doing it piece by piece, and then you organize each piece, well, it's a lot easier to look at, like I've done here for mine, right? I'll just resize this just to show. I did all this organizing very early on. You can see I've got everything in columns, got everything in blocks, I'm like a little Minecraft character here. And it does look a bit weird, but it's not some spaghetti nightmare that's all over the place and makes you just want to start from scratch. Organize things early, not after you've done everything. You can see all the different ones I've used here, and got a little flow node as well. So anyway, let's go back up here. I'm going to do another route. This will be erosion leaves deposits here. Yeah. Erosion deposit. And let's do this again. Take the clamp and the effects, I guess. Collapse them, put them here. We'll do this. Put these up. Let's have a little look. So we got the effects here, turn off all of these. Let's see what we get. So this is the erosion's flow. I'm gonna resize this, put this down here. It's already a pretty cool mask, though there's some weirdness going on here. That's a lot of very similar gray values going on there. Let's try a level, see what happens. Practically nothing. Logarithmic. Okay, really harsh values here, the clipping. And we get the nice details here. What's the way to go with this? Let's do level and log. Practically no difference that I can tell. Let's do an EQ. EQ's having the same problem there. So let's copy these, and we'll do a compare with logarithmic to the equalize. So equalize and then logarithmic. Because we've got these more gray values coming in here, and we do with the equalize, because that's all just pure white, at least that's how it looks on my monitor. I'm thinking we go with the logarithmic. Let's see down here. Or we could just go with the original, but we're not seeing too much. Let's just compare this spot here because it looks bigger. Effects and effects. I think what we should actually do is nothing to it. Let's just route it like that, and we can do whatever processing we want later on for whatever splatmap channel we're going to be using this for, because it's already got clipping values, and if we do anything else at this stage, it's going to get even more clipping. So let's avoid that, and we'll just take it straight up. Erosion, flow. Now we make our portals. Okay, so that's pretty good. We've got what? 1, 2, 3, 4 masks here. And we could separate out the snow and the hard and have the subtracted combination of them. But it's up to you. I've already done all that down below, but I can't be bothered doing it now because I've done this so many times. So yeah, you'll have to experiment a bit. Let's look at our wizard. Okay, actually before that we have the C node. Let's have a look at the C node, see what we've got. So we have the sea, the depth, and the beach. What's that looking like? Okay, the sea is just a hard mask. Okay. What about the depth? Okay, we're not seeing much for the depth. Let's add an effects node. Let's see what we do when we add ABS. Okay, it looks very similar to the sea. If there's any difference, I'm not seeing it. But let's try the equalize. Ah, okay. And this is why it's good to test all of these. Because if we just looked at that, the C mask, and then the depth with just the ABS, we just get this. But do it in equalize. Oh look, it's different. So this seems to be from the very lowest point of the sea is pure white. Then as it's approaching the shore, as it's going higher, we're getting closer to black. Okay, so let's try level and log. Well, this is another good one to check. So we got level, we've got the equalize. How do they look different? Level has a harsher transition and is less gradual, as we can see here. So with equalize, we've got the border going further into the beach. Level, not so much. Let's try logarithmic. Logarithmic looks similar to equalize, but just less of it. Let's try a level. Okay. The level is very strong, the level in the log. It's basically completely harsh. That transition here, though, that kind of blurry, soft edge is good. So what I would do is I'd take both of these. So we'll do route. In fact, let's do an invert as well. I just want to see. We go here, and we do 2 inverts. And you just press T to switch it back to a mask. This is cool. This is cool. By doing the invert again, we can see details that we didn't notice at first. So it seems to also give some weight to the ridges formed by the C node. You can kind of slightly see them here. Okay, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that. In fact, let's try doing something. If we have that invert, let's do a clip here. I've pinned the invert using the F key. Okay, so clip min. What if we were to do another effects? Let's turn off the pin, do an ABS. We got that. What's the way to do this? Let's do an invert. I have to do it in an ABS. Oh, let's subtract them and let's see how that looks. So this one has more data. We'll use that as the source. Subtract the ABS from it. Set this to subtract. And resize. This is very interesting. I rather like this. So this would be used as like for your sand, which you just swap from like your gravel or dirt channel, but just a different texture for these parts of the terrain. That's really cool. I didn't notice that in my previous 4 takes of this tutorial. So let's do that. We'll keep that as... Yeah, let's organize this as well. Perhaps the invert nodes, keep the effects, put them here, put them there. Oh yeah, clamp as well. Do that, put these here. Clamp there, put the effects here. Yeah, you can see how this will get out of hand very fast if we don't keep things organized. So put the effects in there. And I think a better way to do it, put these under. Clamp in the middle, get the combine. And let's collapse that and do a route as well. In fact, no, let's not collapse it. Let's put the route here. Put this route there as well. Okay, so we have here it's the harsh shore mask. This is what I mean. You want to make sure it's organized early because you don't want to do this as you've done it after you have done it for all the other nodes, right? Much easier to organize when there's only a little that's out of whack. We do effects. We do our route. And this will be our C. Which one's this? C. C, I guess. Put that there. And make the portal. In fact, I'll move it down there so it's with the other C nodes. And this is the C depth. Make a portal. And this was the C, what should we call it? Underwater? What would be a good way to put this? Because what are we actually looking at here? We have just before it reaches land, so while it's just submerged underwater. Underwater, let's call it undershore peaks, I guess would be a way to put it. Oh damn, what would be a good way to put it? Underwater slope. Let's do that. Okay, put it there and make portal. Let's tidy this up. So put these here. We've got the climb, we've got the effects. Do the same for this, for the snowfall. Collapse that, put that up, and put this up, get the invert. Move this down, remove this here, remove this up, and we'll just move all of these up too. See how important it is to do it, to tidy things up as you're going through each node rather than after. Believe me, it makes such a big difference. Even if you think, no, I'll remember, you won't. That's why you want to keep things tidy. That's why we have projects. That's why I have a save button. We're going to just click there. See, underwater. Probably move this down a bit. Okay, let's have another look. What do we have here at the beach? Clamp. Okay. This seems to be a mask for whether it be, well, yeah, texture from the shoreline on down. So I guess let's call it that. Let's make it a VFX node again, even though we're not doing anything to it because you might want to later for whatever reason. It's better to have these already, and if you're not using it, fine. You can delete it if you want to after you've gone through everything and you've made sure that you're not using it in any of your channels, any of your other graphs. Because it's hell to reorganize everything and keep things consistent and not touch any of these existing chains when it's all on top of each other. So if you have something and you don't need it, it's much better than you don't have something and you need to get it and you need to organize everything again. Screw that. Don't do that. If you just expose everything that looks like it might be useful, even if you're not going to use it at this at a later stage. So we'll do here, we'll do select both of them. There we go. That goes to there, that goes to there. Do a route. Let's put it there. And we'll call it C shoreline mask. No, what would be a better way to put it? I mean, it kind of is the shoreline mask. Let's call it beach mask. And then make portal. Okay, so we've gone through a few of these nodes to see which ones would actually fit. Let's look at ones much earlier on to see how these masks wouldn't fit. Let's look at the first erosion we do. We can also look at the fractal terrace. Let's look at the fractal terrace because it's the first effect node we have. Doing effects. Okay, so with the fractal terrace, we have connected to the layers output, and it's quite hard to see. So let's do a level. Brings it out a bit. It looks very divergent from our terrain. Like, these look more like just noise lines. I mean, we could probably use that to help break up, say, our grass texture, because it looks like a very natural noise that's tailored to the terrain. But if we want to use it for texturing, I wouldn't, because let's have a look at that actually. Because that's what the fractal terrace node, the first effect node in our chain, looks like, right? Very harsh and very stark layers versus our blur. Because of all the different effects we've done already, there's not much consistency at all. Like, even this shoreline here has been pushed out to here, and it's got a completely different shape. Because that's mainly just a harsh transition. It's relatively straight. Whereas this one's going, it's curving in and curving back out. So we wouldn't use that for an alpha channel directly. We wouldn't base our entire rock mask off of this because, I mean, it's on areas that aren't rock. They used to be rock in the fractal terrace, right? We do that as an underlay. Yeah, that didn't do it. Why not? It is underlay. There we go. Okay, yeah. It looks great and looks very, well, it is conforming to our fractal terrace node because it's literally from the fractal terrace node. If we go down to, let's say, the fold, let's do in this underlay. Well, that looks completely different because it is. There is no similarities at all to the fractal terrace and the fold. Like, there's vaguely similar outline, but that's not going to matter for your textures, really. Yeah. And then if we look even here, back to the blur. Yeah. Whereas this might actually be good to use, not all of it, but if we wanted to subtract from the grass mask or the dirt mask to break things up naturally rather than look like a very artificial Voronoi noise, the one that looks all swirly. This could be good as a subtraction to help blend between transitions to break up blobs of existing textures. I would not use this as the base to place my textures, right? We just use this as we would another noise just to make things look a bit more natural. Because that looks good, let's try another effects to see what it would look like. Because we're going to use this. Let's see, equalize. Equalize gives us a harsh white. Level doesn't. So let's try a level in a log. Get rid of the equalize. There we go. I like that. There's some absolute white, but it's just pixels of it. Compared to that. Let's experiment with this. Let's try doing a clip and then do another effects. And put this to ABS. So what we're going to do, just to experiment because it might be something cool here, let's try clipping them in, subtracting all lower values, and whatever else is remaining there is going to be pure white. Just see what we get. Okay, that's too much. Let's go to 41, 48, 38, 35. Let's go 29. Let's see if we just go back to, I don't know, 17. That's too much. 20. You don't want big continuous blobs if we're going to use this to subtract from a texture. Do 26, 30. Let's do 30. And let's see how this looks if we add stuff to make it look less continuous. Because as you see here, this looks like squiggles, but they run the whole length and it's fairly uniform direction, at least over here. Let's try adding a displace. And we'll increase the strength. We'll reduce the scale. The scale means how would I put it? Think of it like brush strokes. So at a higher scale, it's like we've moved things further in one specific direction, like one long brush stroke. On a lower scale, it's like we're doing multiple small strokes to distort where things are going. Let's put this way down and let's have a wee comparison to what it was before. Okay, let's put it even further down. We'll put it to 1%. It's still looking very uniform. So what happens if we get rid of the uniform? What do we get? Quite interesting. So if we have that as our original, this is our displace. Once if we increase strength vertical. Ooh. Ooh. Ooh, that's looking really cool. So from that to this, what if we were to add an iteration? Reduce the strength vertical a bit. Increase the strength. Oh, this is pretty cool. Let's try adding a loop. I'm not just doing this because I want to. But basically what we're doing here is we're just distorting one of our source masks to see if we can get something natural. And we would normally do this in our other masks, but not loop again. But I want to do this here because I'm just really curious now. I didn't do this in the previous projects. Loop end. What do we get? We could probably turn the iteration back to 1 because we're just doubling the loop a bunch. Okay, yeah, that's way too much. Put that down to 1. And put the number of loops to 2. The reason we do it this way rather than having iterations here up by 1 is because that will keep the seed the same. Whereas in a loop, it chooses a different seed for each iteration, which of course makes a more natural look. Let's put the strength vertical down, about here. Do another comparison. And if we just do uniform again, turn off the uniform, turn that down. And the strength down, put the vertical back up a bit. Okay, let's do a displace on that. We go to here, and scale down, turn off the uniform, do standard. What does rugged look like? uniform there. Scale down. Ooh, that's looking really cool. Let's increase it further. Yeah, this would look really good for breaking up our textures. Let's reduce the scale a bit more. Heck yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, so by using displace node, we've chained it in a loop and then chained one after with completely different values. We've got a very natural looking mask here. So let's invert it. Just have another wee look. So if we were to subtract that little displace mask from just the absolute terrain, see we're getting this very nice natural looking just breakup because we took a fractal terrace which looks very synthetic, but then we did a few displace nodes with different seeds and different settings on the final displace node, and we've got this very nice, very natural looking distribution of the mask. So this would be good for breaking up the grass texture, and also for our vertex colors. This would add some very nice, just slightly different coloring for the grass and the gravel and the dirt. So this is really cool, but it's not the place for it. So what we're going to do is just do a little cheeky, take that, and got that too. So we'll do a route. Call this one fractal terraces. Terraces hard. We'll just do H. Nah, we shouldn't use shortcuts. We have no idea what that could mean. There we go, hard mask. And then we'll take these. Actually, first, make this a portal. Then we make sure we do this first as well, because we're going to move these nodes to one of these graphs. And we're going to make a portal first before we've moved it. Connect the portal to it, which is fractal terraces hard mask. And then we're going to move them to another graph just by doing right click. It's not right click, is it here? Move selected nodes to, let's put it to our splatmap graph. And you create new graphs here, by the way, by just clicking on this drop down here. You can select existing ones or just create a new one here. You can also just click the plus button and you'll get this little prompt here. You can name anything like graph. Just create graph and it puts one there, like that. But I don't want that. I've already made my graphs. So this back and save, because it's been a while. We have our splatmap graphs. And because we did a portal on it first, rather than after, we don't have to then just reassign the portal and everything. We do have to reprocess it, which is annoying, but hey, it looks so cool. So we'll just keep that there for now. Let's see. I like to organize my loops like that. And then we do a displace up here. Well, maybe. Yeah, that looks better. There, do an invert there. Just do it like that. Yeah, that's better. Right, click save. So yeah, that one didn't look good. Well, no, it did look good, but the what was it that didn't look good? So it actually worked out. But yeah, okay, yeah. So for an actual texture as a base, no, we would not use the fractal terrace layers. Whereas just a natural noise to break things up, we would. So we pick that, and let's see. Okay, this is a good example. The wear from this erosion. So if we look here, the erosion there is very different from our blur. The mountains have moved. So whatever stuff is based off these mountains and the shoreline doesn't really apply. Go back to that. And let's have a little look. Let's do an ABS. Okay, there's data everywhere. Do an EQ. Yeah, it's missing where a lot of the peaks are because they've moved. So these flow lines don't really look consistent. It looks kind of buggy, if anything. Because this is meant to be a mountain peak, but we've moved it just through all the natural effects. So some of the details are kind of similar. We look here, they're not shifted along with the previous terrain, no, with the new terrain nodes. Like here especially, see that? Would just look weird. It would look buggy. I'm not going to show it in game because I've done it before, it looks bad. I'm not going to show you how to do bad things. I'm going to show you how to do good things. Which is a shame because some of these would actually look cool. Like I like that flow, that looks natural. But that one is just weird looking. Same here. Like that one looks cool. That one even looks cool. This one looks weird. That one looks weird. That one looks weird. That one looks cool. That's weird, that's weird, that's weird. And whatever this is here, that I have no idea what we could use that for. So I'm not going to use the wizard deposits, where. But let's check the deposits. Same issue, especially here. That just looks very bizarre. Let's start to equalize, put on the level, put on a log. Again, you could probably use this as a base for naturally breaking up textures already, but you wouldn't use it as a base for making your overall splat map channel. Yeah, I don't know about this one. Nah. That's too weird. Let's click save. What would be another one? Okay, let's look at this erosion, this wizard. So this one's actually pretty close. In fact, I should resize this. So our second last erosion, the wizard, looks kind of close to the blur. You can see that, right? The grooves have changed. They're a lot smoother. There's not the harsh transitions. But the contours, the overall shape, the overall character, the large details are pretty damn close to the point you could overlay these masks from it and it would work. So let's have a look. Let's look at the where. Do a clamp. Do an effects. Do an ABS. Okay, it's everywhere just like the other ones. Turn that off. Put on equalize. Do harsh. See all this just absolute white. Turn that off. Let's do a log. Let's do a level. Yeah, that looks good. So yeah, you can see here, even though it's an erosion for the sea and another erosion, and the aperture, and the snowfall, and the blur, it's overall very similar. Just as we saw here, right? The overall contours, the overall character of the terrain is still there that further back in the chain, even though we've done quite a bit after. And by looking at that, how it's very much the same, just the fine details, some of the shape has been changed. The overall detail, the overall shape is the same. We compare that to the thermal. That's completely different from the blur. There's no even real reason to try the wear and deposit unless you're going to do another noise mask to break things up for an actual texture base. Nah, or splat map base. It's too different. Especially here, we've got this hard cliff here. That's completely disappeared, and instead we've got a wee valley going on here. There's no point. So here we got the other erosions where. So we'll do a route. Do wizard where. Make portal. And we'll put it around here for now. In fact, let's actually organize these. So we have our erosion. Let's try a different way of organizing. So we'll scale everything, or either distribute everything based on how early it is in the chain. So we've got our wizard, and then we've got our erosion. So we'll put the wizard here. We'll have the erosion there. Then we've got the snowfall. So we'll put these, let me size this, bollocks. What? I hate that how it just moves the graph sometimes. Save. And we'll put that there, move this here. Put these effects under the same, these clamp under the same. There, and the snowfall here. You'd see what we're doing here. We're just staggering everything. Wait. Oh my god. Okay, take that, move it there. We've got the C node before the snowfall and the erosion. Do this. There. These over here. That there. These here. Hit the erosion. Move the snowfall. Erosion, we'll put these here. Those there as well. Put this here. Now you might be wondering why I chose this way to do a staircase instead of my previous Roblox plan, which looks really awful compared to this. Zoomed out, it doesn't make too much sense, but what we've done is we've staggered everything based on where in our graph's node chain it is. So since this is at the top and before everything else, you can already tell that this is something from earlier in the chain. And whereas this is at the bottom and to the right of everything else, I'm going to reposition that, it comes later in the chain after all of these. And this is important. When you've arranged a graph, you want it to be intuitive. So say, oh, I don't know, you slept on it, or it's been a week, it's been a month, it's been a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, for your project. Just like code, you want to be able to come back to it and go, oh yeah, okay, I remember doing this stuff, let's see. If you can just look at the progression of the graph and everything follows, everything flows, it's fairly intuitive. We're doing some stuff with the fractal terrace, so we're making some rocky thing, we're changing it up, then there's an erosion, there's more erosion, then there's some more rock going on, then we've got the sea, and then we've got cleaning everything up after that erosion. And then we've got this stuff, okay, so this is from earlier, this is from the middle, and this is from the last, and these are portals, and this is from the snowfall, the erosion, where is that? That's the erosion, same name. All this, it will make sense. So that's important. Okay, so I'm just going to delete all of these because I've already got them further down. I'm going to bring it up. I might reorganize this by the next stream. Let's bring these up here. Ooh, actually, before we do that, let me explain what I'm doing here with a flow. Right. Okay, so another thing we want to do, now that we've gotten all of our masks, right, from the existing nodes, we can actually generate new masks from the blur. One of those nodes is the flow. You can see them here, by the way, all the new data masks we can make. We can get the angle, the details, the dither, the growth. Angle is just like anything that's facing a certain direction. Then we, didn't mean to knock the mic there. And the flow is it simulates more rain on the terrain, almost like an erosion, but without changing the terrain. So we're not tracking where dirt has been moved, where rock has been carved. We're tracking where water has flowed. There's a difference. Sounds complex, don't worry. You'll have to know that it looks good and will be useful for a lot of things. So, save there. Right off the bat, you'll see that it doesn't look too detailed. That's because the quality is at 1 to 4. This means with a 2K terrain, it's a 512 by 512 texture, 512 by 512. On a 2048 by 2048 terrain, so this is being scaled way up. What we're going to do is we're going to increase the quality to 1:1. So at 2048 by 2048 source terrain, we're going to get 2048 by 2048 flow mask. However, this is very slow in Gaea 1. Gaea 2 is a lot faster, even with the CPU. Okay, that looks really good, but there's more we can do. You see how it just fits the terrain a lot better. You see we have these different channels here. When we enable these, it's going to add more detail. But first, for doing splat maps, I actually found that a rainfall with around between 5 and 8% somehow creates more precise rainfall. Let's just do another refresh. Let's put that to maybe 4. Yeah, because if we have it high, go back to 23%, you can see how it's mainly overlapping and kind of blurring together. With a really low value, 4 looked good. You get more precise flows rather than just blobs. And that's good. We want precise. Blobs might be good for vertex colors, maybe, but the purpose of the flow would be subtracting from other splat maps and making nicer transitions rather than making blobs on the terrain. Ew, gross. Now let's enable all of these different outputs. Click apply changes. This is going to take longer because it's calculating each of these in turn. And you'll see that we've lost a lot of detail here. You're thinking, well, that's useless. Why did we just lose all this detail? That's because it's overlapping each of these layers, and we can access them by doing this. Clamp. Now, this really pissed me off with Gaea, because it turns out, see we have 3, we got the primary, the tertiary, no primary, secondary, and the tertiary. There's also the quaternary. Where is it? Turns out it's hidden. You have to drag input to the flow, and you can pick it there, but it's not here. Why? And why is this a dotted line? This really pissed me off when I learned about it. Because why would you hide things? This isn't Blender. This is why Blender sucks, is because it hides everything, unless you know exactly where it is already. That's terrible. None of that. That shouldn't be a thing in any software. No. If there's stuff for us to access that we can use, and you specifically added, why would you hide it from everyone? Genuinely. That is, I'll just be honest, that's stupid. I can't think of any good reason for that, unless it's some code limitation, but even then, that's stupid. That's a stupid design. I understand, like, okay, it's not easy to add another channel because maybe you got a limit of 4 outputs. But still, what the hell? Like, okay, I have sympathy people all working, but that's bullshit. That's really bullshit, hiding an output. Okay, let's go to the primary anyway. Stop ranting. Because it even, oh my god, it even breaks the order of the masks. Got a clamp there for the secondary. The same for the tertiary. What's the rainfall at this? Let's put it to 3. Yeah, I prefer the 3. There we go. So again, all these nice grooves. See here? Got the tertiary. The quaternary is looking a bit weird, but we can do stuff with that, like the whole clamp and then clip and then the ABS thing we did earlier. But these are looking really cool. Especially the quaternary. That is great for getting a really fine texture breakup. And here's another thing. What we're going to be doing is actually baking the terrain at 2048. We're going to be generating all of these masks and the splat maps and the vertex colors at 8K, at least for World of Warcraft. Because after the base game, I believe it was with the Burning Crusade, they added this thing called Big Alpha. In other words, their splat maps were 4 times the size in each direction. So, I know, 4 times 4, 12. times, or 8, 12, 16 times, like great at math. 16 times the detail, basically, of the actual mesh, which means you get really nice, fine texture placement. I've not seen that in any other game. And for World of Warcraft, we're going to be building this, the terrain at 2K, bake, then the splat maps at 8K. But if you like The Sims or Skyrim or whatever, like a more conventional terrain, or a game engine rather, you'll just do it at the same res. So what we're going to do as well, it's like I said earlier, we're going to clamp. I forgot to do that to begin with. Do the clamp to the flow, and then we've got all these outputs. Because that's our sacrifice node, the clamp that doesn't do anything. Because when we bake, if we were to bake with the blur, sometimes what happens is it bakes the next node, or the data being passed to the node immediately after the bake, especially if it's got a portal, it breaks. Why? I don't know. It just does. So what we're going to do is, again, let's do the effects. We don't need to do anything here because it's already very defined. It looks very close to what we want anyway. We can do adjustments later in the different channels, but when we need to for whatever purpose we're trying to do. So again, we organize everything. Then we do our route. What I'm going to do is just copy paste. Control C, Control V. Oh, where does it put it? Control C, Control V. There we go. Control C, Control V. That again. Call this. What? Why did I make one there? Weird. Whatever. Flow. Primary. Flow. Secondary. Flow. Tertiary. Check how to spell this one. Quaternary. Quaternary. Okay, and just for completeness sake, let's actually take the combined output. Flow. Output. Oh, for frick's sake. Got to make the node first, then rename this. Put this down here. Put this to here. Put this up here. Okie doke. Let's actually compare the output to the quaternary. Yeah, it's different because it's combining all of these to max, all the different layers, which could be useful for something. Let's have a look what it looks like if we invert it. This could be good for our rock splat map. Oh, that's so cool. I actually didn't know about that. This is the thing. Experimenting can give you some really cool outputs. So I'll remember that for later. In fact, actually, make portal. Portals, flow, output. This is why I said we can do our changes for that specific one, for that specific purpose in the graph itself. And because we did outputs, portals rather, and renamed them beforehand so they make sense, so we immediately know what they are, rather than just doing portal 5 or FO3 or FO1. If you actually name stuff in English, it turns out it's a lot easier to know what it is at first glance. Who would have thought? And sometimes it's impossible. If you use single letters, or 2 letters, or 3 letters, or just numbers. I mean this with all respect. And I mean this in the nicest way possible. I hate you. Don't do that. Honestly, name things properly. For the love of God, it's easier for everyone, including yourself. Right? Because that looks cool. Okay, so just to recap, what we've done is we've looked at how to use a terrain for reference with previous nodes on how to get the different data masks for the purpose of texturing. We've looked at understanding when it's too divergent from the final result to use these early nodes, right? Especially like this one, for example. It's totally different. I don't see much you could actually use there because everything's shifted. And we then looked at what looks appropriate. And if it fits, cool. We also looked at explaining an avoidance with baking. Now I'll show how to bake at the end of this as well. Looked at how to organize things. This wasn't a great way, but it's what I did. It made sense at the time, doesn't looking at it. We looked at having a dummy node and then doing an effects that sometimes we don't do anything with, other times we do, to look at the actual details. Because initially, looks like there's nothing there. We do an effects. Oh, look, there is. And we route that to a route node, appropriately named. And then we made portals. And why you need to rename before you make the portal, because it saves a whole Windows error prompt that you then have to rename it, which is easy to miss. And then we looked at how to use portals. Just to reiterate, you place a node, you take the input, click and drag. It could even be a mask input, but this would be just another input. But you go down to portals after dragging it out, and you can select them all that you've named here. So the next thing to do, finally, is we're going to bake the terrain. Now, you want to do this only when you've done everything that you're going to with the terrain, because unbaking takes forever and it can break things, and you want to make sure you're not adding any more terrains, or terrain nodes rather. Only then you would bake. And we'd do here, we'd bake it 2048 by 2048, not 8192, even though our texture maps, our splat maps rather, will be 8192 by 8192, because the actual terrain we're playing on is 2048 by 2048. And then we would just bake there. And I could show you how I would do it, but that would just break everything, I think. I don't want to bother with any of the issues. Screw it, let's do it. Do bake selected. Yes. See what this comes up with. In fact, I might just bake the preview for lucky, because it's at 2K already. Yeah, there we go. So when we've baked, you can see why it was so cool to add the sacrifice nodes. Sometimes it can screw up, especially if you made a bake node in output because it's unloaded, as we can see here, and that breaks everything. If I had this sacrifice node before it baked, oh look, you can still access that information. If we were to do a, occlusion, that works. If we did it on a blur, it doesn't. Wait, what? Why is it working? Usually this doesn't work. I look very silly right now. It aims to do with it being a portal. Whatever, just do it anyway. It saved me a lot of pain and these edge issue bugs, right? So yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. And next I'll be going over how to do these different splat map channels. I might just do one tutorial for each channel, for the grass, then another for the rock, then another for the gravel, another for the dirt, another for the vertex colors, because there's a lot involved. I think the rock is the easiest because you want to do that very similar to 2048 by 2048, because if it's hard rock, it should conform very tightly to the terrain, whereas grass, gravel, and dirt can appear in a lot more places naturally. You can have grass that suddenly has a bit of gravel or dirt mixed in, so the overlap's fine. With rock, you generally want big blobs of it that conform to the sharp bits of the terrain. So yeah, hopefully the mic sounds better. We'll find out. So save here. And yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully the mic was clearer this time. Okay, thanks. Bye.